A fistful of blueberries. I probably need to eat more than that. Either way, back to point. This is the depressing thing about online and how people have been manipulated to have no attention spans whatsoever, and to cater to packages of, what people call content. Unfortunately, these days, how content has been burlesqued in terms of social engineering jargon, but short videos. Sometimes there's something in there, but typically speaking, if you really want to learn something, it's involved. If you want to see the roots. If you want a superficial understanding of shit and or absolute misdirection, this is how our masters get us. So the reason I mention that is if I don't ramble for another 10 minutes, most people will see this video. If anybody sees either of these videos, most will usually see the shorter one, is my point. Whether I put something flashy in there or not. The other day when I was having it out with, and again, he was very civil, even though he shops around propaganda, having to do with the globe and aliens and nonsense. But the many-faced God account, and again, I think he's been the most civil, and I mean, I keep saying the same stuff because my brain is a little slow right now. He was very kind, and some of the things he said were thoughtful, which most people I've interacted with, especially with larger accounts like that, they haven't taken the higher road, is my point. Yeah. So what the fuck was my point, right? I jumped on here and I was going to tell you guys something. So we were talking about being 86th. And what I want you to consider is it beneficial? Are these little deaths? Keep in mind, there's a big death and a little death. I'm not just talking about La Petite, La Morte, releasing your orgasm, the little deaths. I'm talking about on scales large and small, all things are reflected. This is why you've been spoon-fed, as within, so without, as above, so below. This applies to gematria in stark contrast to what I can teach you, if you guys haven't connected those two dots. Most people haven't. It paints a bigger picture when you use both, and it is involved. I'm trying to catch one of these probably genetically modified, vaccine-carrying little mosquitoes. There's quite a few of them this season, and it's winter here in Portland, but it is wet outside. Back to point. So, these little deaths. So when you sleep at night, you could think of it as being 86th, crudely speaking, mind you. And then you're renewed. Yeah? I've rattled this off in the past, so here's a review, and I'm still talking, and I probably won't just make a 2 or 3 minute video. I don't like doing that. I don't like doing that. But then again, I hate limitations, and maybe that's the Pisces in me. Because Pisces bridges Aries, and the whole thing is cyclical. Jacob the heel catcher, Israel. These things are relevant. These things are relevant to you and I in a big fucking way. So what was I just saying? Having to do with being 86th, essentially, and sleeping. Oh, yeah. During the day, your body will produce serotonin, which produces growth. And at night, your body produces melatonin, which inhibits growth. Usually I think of the melatonin as a death gene, and that's probably why the ancients, and like I said, I've said this many times, the ancients said that sleep is 1/60th of death. In the other video, I rattled off 528, having to do with Leonard Horowitz and that propaganda. Keep in mind, he's got a globe on the cover of his book. What I'm trying to explain to you is 60 is also connected to that jazz. And we celebrate 60 in terms of seconds and minutes. Wait, minutes? No. Seconds and hours. Brain fog, apologies. It's relevant. And I'm sidestepping something that I really want to show you guys. The most painful thing is most people aren't involved, so what I want to do is paint you a really elaborate picture of what I see and how I see it. And that's usually how I function when I jump on these videos. Instead, I try to dumb things down and give you a superficial version of what I sort of see. I try to make it a little muddy because people will take this information and they'll corrupt it, typically speaking. And or they won't work with it, and or they won't see it. I mean, 10 years hasn't left me feeling too good about this jazz. But the point is 60 is connected to this in a big way. So when you hear 1/60th of death, you should also think of 1.67. And when you think of 1.67, what did I teach you about the 187? Just think about it. Just think in general. Work with the angles. The ancients taught us many things. We've been spoon-fed so many tools, but people don't do anything with them. This is why people are repeating the same shit. And these days, thanks to our masters giving us the internet, people are repeating brand new fairy tales, adult fairy tales that we never had before and don't reflect reality. Like Tartaria and shit like that. Like the Atlantean civilization gave us the Egyptians and a bunch of other fucking horse shit that was made up by the CIA. Things like that. People repeat it and they will argue with you because that's what everybody else is repeating right now in the truth community. People aren't thinking for themselves. During the day, growth. During the night, death, crudely speaking. So which is which? Which is good, which is bad? It's about walking that narrow path. It's about moderation between the two. And that's something that I've been trying to embody and remind myself of. It's something I used to be really good at. But I threw caution to the wind. And you and I will both suffer when we do things like that. So the same should be thought of in terms of where we are, what this is, and how it works, and why everything feels fucking miserable these days. Why it feels like there's something menacing in the air. And it's because there is. The internet is a bastardization of the ether, and our masters are creating a net of energy, which is essentially a prison. You know, the prince of the airs, things like that. Yeah. What the fuck do I know? And again, 5G is less in, what's the word I'm looking for? 5G is less efficient than its predecessors, is what I should say. People say, oh, it's faster and blah, blah, blah. Right? But it worked in short, condensed bursts, which means it's not. Make of it what you will. Make of it what you will. You also see how our masters are limiting things. I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but I know people on multiple carriers who are experiencing the same thing. Try sending a video. You used to be able to send at least a minute-long video. Now I can maybe send 15 seconds. You have to crop it. Why would that be? Maybe 5G. It's not fucking rocket science. Yeah. Things used to be better. The golden age of the internet and all that other stuff is well past. And the same applies to civilization, society. And it's by design. It's by fucking design. But people aren't picking up what I'm putting down. People aren't paying attention. And some of the observations that I've rattled off online over the years, you would hear often. The really neat shit that I've shown you guys, you would see that. You would see that being taught to you by people with big accounts that actually do mean well. There are some out there. But they don't know this shit because they've never looked into it. They're just repeating our masters' narratives, the adult fairy tales, and the corrupted information. I'll digress on that note. Wow, it's going to be a whopping 1 minute less than the other video. Thanks for hanging out.